Alright, hello once again, this is Jeff Scott and welcome to Scratch Programming. Alright, we are going to build our second application right now. It's going to be a lot different than the first. The first, really, there wasn't a lot of interactivity once you started it. This one will be a lot more interactive, and I decided to keep our cat Scratch here involved in the game. So let's run it so you can see what happens. Welcome, the computer will generate a random number between 1 and 100 and you attempt to guess it. Number generated, good luck. So I put the number down here. Please guess a number between 1 and 100 now. Let's try 50. Your guess was too low. Okay, so I know now I've eliminated 50 of the possible numbers. Alright, it can't be 50 or below. It's got to be 51 or above. So I could put 51 here, but let's try cutting it in half again. 75. Your guess was too high. So in two guesses, I've now eliminated 3/4 of the numbers. It's got to be a number between 51 and 74. Okay, let's try about half that. 63. That was too low, so I know it's got to be between 63 and 74. Well, let's try 68. Your guess was too low, so it's got to be 69, 70, 71, 72, or 73. One of those numbers. Let's try 70. Your guess was too low, so it's got to be 71, 72, or 73. Let's try 72. I guessed the secret number in 6 guesses. All right. So it asks me if I want to play again. If I say yes, it'll go through everything all over again. If I say anything other than Y, thanks for playing, goodbye. Okay, and it's just going to sit there. I mean, I could stop the script. There's different ways to end it, but I'm just going to click down here, and I'm done. And that's it. So this is what the code's going to look like. I know it looks really probably pretty ugly. So, geez, I don't know what the heck that is. That's what we're going to do right now. And we're going to really, really take our time. So let's go back to File, and let's do New. So I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to just call it my guessing game. I can put spaces in here. I can run it all together. It really doesn't matter that much, to be honest with you. So I click there, and I do a File, Save Now, and then I should be able to go over into my stuff, and I should see it there. My guessing game. There it is. Now there's virtually nothing in there right now. You will know that. Alright, so we've got Scratch here. We could make them a little smaller. That's not really that big a thing one way or the other. But he's at 0, 0. We could move him down. We could do a lot of things. The first thing for us to think about is there's things in here we're going to want to keep track of. Well, whatever, we got the random number. How's that? We want to keep track of whatever the random number is. Alright. And that will vary based on the game. So I might do it one time, it might be 37. I might be doing it in another game, it might be 72, etc. All right, so that's one thing. I want to keep track of the number of guesses so I can let the user know how many guesses they made. All right. I want the user to keep, or the program to keep track of the current guess so I can see if it was too low, too high, or correct. And I want to be able to tell the user, whether or not they can play again. Those 4 things, the random number, the number of guesses, the current guess, and the play again, those are all known as variables. They're all things whose value may vary throughout the life of the program. So, if I come down, notice right near the bottom, there's variables. Notice our pen isn't here. We could add it, but we don't need it for this program. So I'm going to come down to variables. And right now there aren't any. So I'm going to make a variable. And the first one I'm going to make is going to be called random number. Now notice how I put this together. This should be one word. All right? And I want to be able to use it. I'm only going to have one sprite, but that's fine. I'll just leave it for all sprites. But I run it together, and you'll notice the first word is all in lowercase, and the second word begins in uppercase. That's known as camel casing, and that's the way that most people set up their variables. So I click OK, and notice now I've got random number. It'll show up here too. If I don't want it to show, I just remove the check mark. So that's the first one. Now I want number of guesses. So I again click on here. Again, I'll use camel case. Whoops, number of guesses. All right. And there it is again. My next variable. Whoops. I did my variable. Oh, I don't need that. I don't know how to get rid of that, but that's no biggie. Next, I want to put in current. So I've got random number, I've got number of guesses, I want current guess. And then finally, I want play again. Now, a couple things about these variables. First thing, current guess, number of guesses, and random number, those will all be digits. They'll all be numbers. The current guess, if I put in 12, that's a number. If the random number is 33, that's a number. My number of guesses, if that's my first guess, number of guesses is 1. That's a number. All right? Technically, play again is what's referred to as a Boolean variable. A Boolean variable can be true or false. All right, a Boolean variable can be true or false. All right, and none of these have been set yet. We're going to do that in just a minute. But what I wanted you to see was the fact that we have 4 variables in this program. Still don't know how I get rid of that variable right there. All right, that was my own silly fault. All right, so as we do with most programs, we're going to start this off with an event, and it'll be a when clicked. Try to make this a little smaller. There we go. So I make that a little bit bigger. All right, so when clicked. So what do we want to do when we start the program? Well, we would like to have we'll have our cat be our spokesperson, and the cat will say, "Welcome. The computer generates a random number between 1 and 100, and you attempt to guess it." So what is that? Well, if I come over by my looks, I've got to say. Now, 2 seconds isn't much time to read this, so I'll pump it up to 5 seconds. And I'll change it to, how about welcome? Welcome. Now, if I left it just like that and I clicked, there's the welcome. Now you'll see it better if I make this big again. There's the welcome. Okay? But I want a little more than that in there. So I'm going to say this. I'm going to say welcome. The computer generates a random number between 1 and 100. You attempt to guess it. Oops. Temporal. There we go. Let's move this over. It's kind of big. It's, but the point is, once I bring this bigger and I run this, welcome. The computer generates a random number between 1 and 100, and you attempt to guess it. 5 seconds later, it disappeared. Okay, well, that's a good start. All right, so that's the first thing we wanted to do. Second thing is I should initialize all of these variables. What that means is I want to take each one of those variables and give them a beginning value. So I'm going to go down to my variables. The order in which I do this doesn't matter at all. All right. But let's start with number of guesses. Okay. Well, what do I want to do? I can't take that and just drag it out there. I mean, I could, but it's not going to do anything. So what I need to do is I need to set. And let's just move that over here. So I want to set And if I click the down arrow here, number of guesses. Now that's set to 0. Well, I want to set my current guess to 0, so that's another one. I want to set, you'll see why with this in just a second. Play again, I want to set that equal to true. And finally, I want to set the random number. So I want to set the random number, but I want to set that to a number that's between 1 and 100. So not here, but I come in here, and you'll notice I've got to pick random 1 to 10. I think that'll fit the bill, except I want to change that from 10 to 100. So again, what I want you to understand here, if I run the program again, it's still only going to give me this message for 5 seconds. It disappears, and nothing else will happen. But what I want you to understand is what has happened in this program thus far. All right? There we go. So what I've said is when you start the program, the cat should come up and say, "Welcome, Scratch. The computer generates a random number between 1 and 100. You attempt to guess it." Then in here, we're just initializing all of our all of our variables, I should say. Now, I'm just going to show you this. I'm going to remove it right away. All right, I'm going to remove it right away. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab another say. And instead of having this say hello right here, all right, I'm going to have it say the random number. Okay? Now what's different is, I'll make this bigger, I'm going to get the message, but afterwards I should be able to run this a few times and get a different number each time, or at least hopefully I will. So, welcome, the computer generates a number, you will attempt to guess it. We'll see the number the computer generated, 13. If I stop the run and I run it again, and I'm going to run it about 5 times. So we had 13, 93. $70, $68, $30. So we ran it 5 times. 13, whatever it was. 30 the last time. But it appears to be giving us random numbers. That's good. Now, the game wouldn't be much if we always told somebody what the random number was. I mean, it wouldn't be much of a game, really, when you think about it. All right, so I'm just going to remove this. But I wanted to show that to you, in that, indeed, as we go through this, the program is running. All right? So, what do we want to do? Well, I want to play the game. But when I get done, I want to ask the user if they want to play the game again. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to come down, and under my controls, I'm going to do a repeat until. There is a repeat. Thought it was a repeat until. There it is. Well, I want to repeat until what? Until this thing that's called play again, until that value is equal to false. So what is that? That's a condition. So I've got to go down in my operators. So I want to do this until my variable, which is play again, until it's equal to, repeat until it's equal to false. So keep playing the game. So down at the bottom here, I'm going to ask the user, do you want to play the game again? All right. So I could run it again. It's going to look very much the way it did before. Okay. But what I want to do here is I want to ask now. I want that thing to come down here that's going to ask the user to please enter a number between 1 and 100 now. All right. Letter C's are purple. There's our ask. Under blue, it's a sensing. So we want to ask. But we don't want to say, what's your name? That would be kind of silly. So we're going to say here, please enter a guess between 1 and 100. Whoops. Below. That looks good. And then we're going to wait. So now what you will notice, and again, not a bad time, I can come in here with a file and save now. But if I come in and run it, welcome. It's not going to show the random number anymore, but it does say please enter a guess. Now I can put in a guess, and it's just going to, it's in an infinite loop right now because it's told it to just keep asking for a guess, for a guess, for a guess, for a guess. So I'm going to stop the run. All right, but I wanted to show you that we are making some progress in here. When you ask something, the result gets put into this variable right here that's called answer. Now I'm going to do this one a little bit different just to show it to you. Okay? And what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to set, so I want my orange. That's my variables. I want to set my current guess equal to that answer that was right there. Now, I goofed up. I typed in the word answer here. That's not what you want to do. You want to come down into the blue, find the word answer right here, put it in there. Now I'm going to do something a little different just so you see this. That is, I'm going to check the box by answer. And notice it comes up here. All right, the program is still far from being done, but I want to show you what we have so far. We want it big. So, welcome, the computer generates a random number. You attempt to guess it. So I'm going to come in here and say 31, and watch what happens in there. It shows 31. And since I'm still in that infinite loop, it's asking me to guess another number. 34, and I can keep doing this, but I'm still in an infinite loop. I just wanted you to show that, so I'm going to leave that here. You don't have to do that, and basically I'm leaving it there as what I would refer to as a debug tool. All right? So now what do I want to do? Well, I've come in here and I've read my guess, and it might not even be a number. What if I run this? Okay. And notice there's nothing in here. I just leave it blank. It stays blank. What if I come in here and type in my name? It puts my name in there. Well, how do we account for that? There's different ways that we can account for that. Okay, there are different ways. I keep checking my time because I don't want these to go over a half an hour each. Okay, so I'm going to come in here, and I don't want to do that. Let's see. I want an if-else statement. And the first thing I want to say is if the number that I entered is, if that number is less than 1 or that number is greater than 100, I want the cat to give us an error message that says, hey, you must enter a number between 1 and 100. All right? So I'm going to come down to my green operators. And if I want to put it in there and I want an OR statement, that means either one, if either one of the conditions are true. The first one will be, and I'm going to put another one in here. Now look at what I just did. All right? This, I want this to be my variable. And that is what? That is my current guess. So if my current guess is less than, not 50, but if it's less than 1, or if my current guess is greater than 100, if either one of those are the case, then I know I've made a mistake because I put in either something non-numeric or I put in something that was out of range. To me, that's an invalid guess. Either way, it's an invalid guess. So I'm going to come in here, and if you did either one of those, I'm going to give you a message. So I'm going to say, your guess, how about this? Out of range. Guess must be between 1 and 100. And I'll leave it on a little longer than 2 seconds. So I'll put it in there for 5 seconds. Okay, so let's save it. Again, maybe I'm saving it more often than I have to, but it's okay. There's a save. Let's run it again. There's our message from scratch. All right, so now I'm going to come in here. I am going to put something out of range. -55. Notice, out of range. Guess must be between 1 and 100. It did chart the guess, though. Now let's put something greater than 100. 111. Out of range. Guess must be between 1 and 100. All you can do here, I mean, you've got two choices. You can either alert the user to the fact that she or he made a bad guess and let them retry, which is what I'm doing here. Or you can, if you wanted to, we could only give them 2 or 3 chances as an example. And if that's the case, we could kick them out. I mean, it's kind of like when you log in, if any of you have accounts where you log in, that sometimes you'll come in there and in your login, if you put in a wrong password or username 3 times, it'll kick you out. We could do the same kind of thing in here, right? Well, if we get down to this else, we know we've got a valid guess. We don't know if it's a correct guess. We just know that it's a valid guess. So what I want to do here is I want to set my number of guesses. I want to increment it. So I want to set it equal to number of guesses plus 1. That's an operator. So in other words, we just incremented the number of guesses that we have. And again, to show you this, and I'm going to remove it right away. I'm going to remove it. But what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to show number of guesses. Okay, we'll remove it in just a second, but I'm going to go back, run the program again. You'll notice if I put something out of range, okay, it says out of range, but it's not printing out any number of guesses. However, if we put in a guess 47, now notice number of guesses is printing out and showing us 1. If we put in another guess, 55, it's showing us 2. All right, that's good. That's what we want to have happen. So I'm going to stop the run and I'm going to get rid of this. That was, again, I'm just showing you this. Again, it's build a little, test it. Build a little, test it. That's the way you should always be writing your code. All right? Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start setting up the rest of the code here. And I'm going to put in another if-else statement. Because now what I know is I've got a valid value. But there's three possibilities here. Either there's a 1 in 100 chance when I first start. When I first start, there's a 1 in 100 chance I'll guess the right number. So that means that there is a 99 out of 100 chance that the number I guess will be too high or too low. And I don't know which it'll be. All right? But I can come in here and I can do an operator, and I can do a less than, and I could do just as easily do the greater than, but this is fine. So if my current guess is less than the random number, okay, so that's the first one, okay, then I'm just going to do a say guess too low, please try again. Again, we'll keep that up for about 5 seconds. Let's try running this. Now, we may get an error here because there's nothing in the else. I don't know if that'd give us an error or not, but we'll try it anyway. So, okay, welcome. Now, we've already checked our other stuff, but let's put in a guess it's probably too low, so I'm going to put in a 1. Guess too low, please try again. Notice our number of guesses and our answer. Put in a 2. Guess too low, please try again. All right. How about a 10? Guess too low, try again. So that all appears to be working, and that's great. All right. So we want to come in here and guess what? We want another if-else because there's still two things that could be happening in here. We could either have a number that is too big, or we might have guessed it. All right, and I'm coming right to the end here. So I'll tell you what, let me do this. I'm going to say if, same kind of thing we did before. So I'm going to go down to my operators, and I'm going to find one that's greater. Before I did less than, and here it's going to be greater. And I want my current guess. Else, if the current guess is greater than the random number, I'm going to say guess too high. Please try again. Now let's see if that appears to be working. All right, so we'll do another file, save now. I'm going to run it again. Here's my welcome message. All right, I'm going to put in a 1. There's my guess too low. Please try again. Now I'm going to put in a 99. Guess too high. Please try again. Got 2 guesses. So the only thing that's left is if we did get it. We'll do that in the next part of this lecture. Be back in a few.